Silas Monroe thought he was just buying some grain and salt that day. Turns out, he stumbled onto something way bigger. When he opened that old wooden crate, instead of sacks of supplies, he found a baby. A real, breathing, crying baby, all alone and wrapped in a ragged blanket. Silas stood frozen on the threshold of his cabin, the crate lid slipping from his hands. 30 years of solitude in the wilderness hadn't readied him for this kind of shock. The infant was no more than a few months old, dark hair matted against its flushed face, eyes wide and watching him like it knew something he didn't. Silas carefully set the lid down. Heart pounding, he'd ridden into town that morning for supplies, planning to get through another harsh winter alone. The traveling merchant had sold him the crate for half the price, saying he needed to clear inventory fast. Now Silas had his answer. That soft sound from the baby made Silas take a step back. He'd lived alone since his wife passed 15 years ago. No neighbors, no visitors, just peace. Or so he thought. This tiny life changed everything. His gaze flickered to the window where his horse was tied, then back to the baby. He could ride back right now, demand answers from that nervous merchant, figure out who dumped a child in a supply crate like it was garbage. But something held him in place. The baby's fragile fingers slipped free from the blanket, curling and uncurling in the cabin's dim light. Silas noticed just how tiny and helpless they were, and for the first time in decades, he felt something besides numbness, raw, unfiltered fear. Not fear of the baby itself, but of what keeping it meant. What letting it go meant. His hands trembling, Silas reached into the crate. The baby's eyes tracked him, then gripped his thumb with surprising strength. In that moment, Silas knew he faced a choice that would change everything. Before he could decide, the thunder of hoofbeats shook the quiet. Voices, rough and urgent, approached the cabin. He slammed the crate lid shut and shoved it behind sacks of flour just as 3 riders emerged, 2 men in dark coats and a woman in a faded dress, all worn and desperate. They had been riding hard. His heart hammered as the lead rider, a man with a thick mustache and cold eyes, dismounted and greeted him. They were looking for a merchant who'd passed through with supplies. Silas stayed calm, but his mind raced. They knew the merchant, maybe the baby too. The woman, young and exhausted, pressed closer, eyes sharp and searching. She asked if the merchant sold anything else, a crate, something he was eager to get rid of. The baby whimpered from behind the sacks. Silas cleared his throat and stepped onto his porch, drawing attention away. Just grain and salt, he said. Nothing special. But the woman, Elena, wasn't buying it. She said they were missing something important, something that belonged to them, and offered a reward, $50. More money than Silas had seen in years, enough for winter supplies, but it came with a price. The baby.a piercing cry burst from inside. The men tensed. The leader's hand twitched near his gun, but Silas lied quickly, claiming it was his cat. Elena's eyes narrowed. She knew better. The baby cried again, louder this time, impossible to mistake. The leader smiled, but it was a cruel smile. Mighty strange cat you got there, friend. Mind if we take a look inside? Silas planted himself by the door, rifle resting against the cabin wall. Private property. No uninvited guests. Now, the leader said smoothly. We're just here for what's ours. That merchant stole something precious, and we believe it's in here. The baby's cries grew urgent, desperate. Silas felt a knot twist in his chest. The child was scared, hungry, needing care. But the strangers stood between him and that innocent life. Elena stepped forward, voice breaking. His name's Thomas. 4 months old, dark hair, brown eyes. Taken 3 days ago. Thomas had a name. A mother, just 10 feet away, tears streaming down her face. Silas studied her, searching for lies, for deceit. But the pain in her eyes was raw, real. The exhaustion, the fierce love, it all screamed truth. Yet something felt off. The baby wriggled against her, restless, uncomfortable. Frank, the younger man, glanced nervously, while Elena's reaction to the questioning was sharp, defensive. They weren't here to rescue a child. They were thieves. The merchant had hidden Thomas from them. Thomas's cries worsened, panic rising in Elena's voice. Why won't he stop? Frank suggested the baby might be sick and urged getting him moving before more showed up. Silas watched, piecing it together. These weren't grieving parents. They were predators, and Thomas was their prize. The dark stains on Elena's sleeves weren't dirt. They were blood. Fresh blood. The real parents weren't victims of Apaches, but of these people. Where are his real parents? Silas asked. Dead, Frank lied. Killed last week. We're family, here to take him home. The lie was thin, desperate. Silas saw the greed, the cold calculation. Elena struggled with the baby. Thomas reached out, searching for comfort he wasn't getting. You're hurting him, Silas said quietly. He'll calm once we're on the road, the leader replied, dismissive. Kids are resilient. Silas's fingers tightened on the rifle. The baby's cries tore through him, awakening a protective instinct buried deep since he lost his own chance at fatherhood. The leader's gun came up fast. Drop it, old man. Forget you saw us. Silas ignored the threat, eyes locked on the terrified infant in their arms. Now, Elena, move, the leader barked, but Elena hesitated. That split second was all Silas needed. His rifle cracked. A shot tore through the leader's wrist, sending the gun flying. The man screamed, clutching his mangled hand. Frank tried to shoot, but Silas was quicker. A second shot dropped him, weapon skittering away. Elena fled toward the horses, baby screaming in her arms. Chaos erupted as Silas burst outside, rifle trained on her back. Stop, he commanded. She spun, eyes wide, not the cunning of a con artist, but raw fear. Cornered people did desperate things. I'll drop him, she threatened, holding Thomas out over jagged rocks. The baby's cries had softened to weak whimpers, face purple with exhaustion. You won't, Silas said calmly, stepping closer. Then you have nothing left to trade. Elena's hands shook violently. You don't understand. He's worth everything. Families back east pay good money for babies like him. We're not the only ones hunting. The truth slammed into Silas. The baby wasn't just stolen, he was merchandise in a deadly trade. How many? Silas asked quietly. How many children? Elena's silence was answer enough. Movement behind him signaled the leader wasn't dead. Frank groaned, wounded but dangerous. Outside, 5 riders emerged, well-armed professionals. These aren't thieves. They're killers, Silas said, heart pounding. Elena whispered the leader's name, Crenshaw. If he's here, we're all dead. Crenshaw called out, ordering them to come out. Silas stood firm. He wasn't giving up Thomas. The leader sneered, that child's promise to a family in Denver, good people who paid well. Silas's blood ran cold. You killed his parents. Elena trembled. Frank and me. We were supposed to deliver the baby. He came looking. The battle lines were clear. Silas was outnumbered, outgunned, but the baby's life was worth every risk. Last chance, Crenshaw warned. Send them out, and we ride away. Silas countered. If they left empty-handed, he wouldn't alert the law. Crenshaw laughed. Law doesn't matter here. I own half the sheriffs. The rest are scared. Inside, the wounded men whispered plans. The baby stirred, quiet for a moment before starting to cry again. Silas looked at Thomas's dark eyes and knew. Some fights were worth losing. He raised his rifle, ordered Elena to take the baby to the back room and bar the door. Shots rang out. Silas fired, dropping Jenkins, then Frank. Outside, Crenshaw cursed. You made this personal. Elena disappeared inside. Baby safe for now. Silas counted bullets, 12 left, plus his sidearm. Against 5 killers, it wasn't much, but it was all he had. The attack came fast, flankers firing, breaking windows, sending wood chips flying. Silas dropped one, rolled, narrowly avoiding a bullet that shattered the cabin wall inches from his head. The baby's cries echoed. Fueling his fury, he burst from the door, rifle blazing, dropping the man with the torch before being wounded himself. Blood dripping, he ducked behind cover. Give us the baby and we'll make it quick. Crenshaw shouted. Silas fired back. The odds tightened soon. The killers would be close, and his rifle wouldn't save him. He charged. The fight was brutal, wrestling Crenshaw in the dirt, fighting for control. Shots fired. One struck Crenshaw in the ribs. Silas wrenched the rifle free and slammed the stock against his head. Silence fell. The last killer vanished into the woods. Silas, breathing hard, sat beside the unconscious Crenshaw. Around him lay the cost of evil, men who killed and stole children for profit. Elena emerged, Thomas calm in her arms. Silas looked into those dark, knowing eyes and felt something stir, purpose, hope. What now? Elena asked, Now we give him a home, Silas replied. In the months that followed, Silas learned diapers and formula. Elena stayed, healing from her past. Authorities never came, Crenshaw's empire was gone. Thomas thrived, laughter filling a cabin once silent for too long. Silas Monroe thought he was buying grain and salt. Instead, he found a family he never knew he needed. And in a land where justice was rare and brutal, one old rancher proved some things were worth fighting for. So what would you do? Let three murderers take an innocent baby? Or